Hello, I'm Hope Logan. I am an actor on Bold and the Beautiful, and many people really love both me and our Bold and the Beautiful drama. So I've come here to share updates about my beloved Bold and the Beautiful. Everyone, please subscribe and support me. If you do, I will keep coming every day with new updates for you. Katie Logan Spencer stands at the center of a hard-earned victory, her confidence shining brighter than ever after yet another successful fashion show that has left the industry buzzing. The air around her feels charged with triumph, as though every step she takes is echoing with validation she has long been waiting for. But in the middle of this celebration, something begins to shift. Her pride starts to spill over into something sharper, something heavier. In the April 27th episode, she turns to Brooke Logan Forrester, expecting admiration, expecting acknowledgement, and perhaps even a shared moment of sisterly pride. Instead, what she receives is distance, hesitation, and a lack of sincerity that cuts deeper than she expected. Feeling wounded by Brooke's reaction, Katie lashes out emotionally, accusing her sister of driving a metaphorical stiletto straight into her heart, turning a moment of victory into a tense emotional clash between the two Logan sisters. Even after that confrontation, Katie refuses to let Brooke's cold response dim her momentum. Instead, she doubles down on her belief in herself, choosing to celebrate her success alone, rather than wait for validation that she feels will never come from her sister. In her mind, Brooke is simply not capable of truly recognizing her achievements, so Katie decides she will be the one to acknowledge her own rise. She firmly believes that Logan's first collection has already changed everything, putting her and her brand on the map in a way that cannot be ignored. Even as she acknowledges the loss of Eric Forrester, she frames it as the end of one era and the beginning of another, insisting that Logan is not just surviving, it is here to stay. With growing conviction, she warns Brooke that the landscape has changed, declaring that there is now a new force in the fashion world and everyone should take notice of it. As Katie's confidence continues to build, it transforms into something even more dramatic and unapologetic. She envisions herself not just as a competitor, but as a rising fashion queen stepping into a space that once belonged to others. In her eyes, Brooke Logan may have once been iconic, a name that defined an era, but that era is fading into history. Now, Katie boldly positions herself as the new face of Logan's success, the one everyone is talking about in the present moment. The declaration carries both pride and defiance as she fully embraces her identity and the momentum she believes she has earned. It is a turning point where admiration for the past gives way to a fierce belief in her own future, even if that belief is built on tension, rivalry, and emotional distance from her sister. Behind all of Katie's bold declarations, however, lies a complex foundation of justification that strengthens her position, at least in her own view. She firmly believes she has done nothing wrong, and that every step she has taken has been legal, fair, and earned. While Brooke accuses her of benefiting from stolen designs and a borrowed legacy, Katie stands her ground, pointing out that she is a Logan and that everything was obtained through legitimate agreements. The narrative surrounding Eric Forrester's involvement shifts into clarity through recent developments, with indications that a formal contract was indeed signed, solidifying the transfer of those designs. This reinforces Katie's belief that the collection truly belongs to her, not as a theft, but as a rightful acquisition. Even the branding itself is defended, as she explains that the Logan name was not taken but reclaimed after Forrester allowed the trademark to expire, making her move entirely legal in her eyes. For many observers, there are strong arguments to stand behind Katie's position, painting her as justified in her rise. Yet, beneath the surface of success and justification, a sense of foreshadowing quietly builds, suggesting that triumph in this world is never permanent. The history of this ongoing rivalry makes one thing clear. Brooke Logan rarely stays down for long, and setbacks often become setups for her eventual return. Even if Katie enjoys a period of dominance, there is an underlying tension that suggests her confidence may eventually lead her into dangerous territory. The more she proclaims herself as the new fashion queen and embraces her rising power, the more she may be unknowingly paving the way for an inevitable reversal. There is even the possibility that shifting alliances, such as bringing Hope Logan Spencer closer into her orbit, could temporarily strengthen her position before everything begins to shift again. Still, in this world of fashion, family, and rivalry, nothing remains stable for long, and victory often carries the seeds of its own downfall. As tensions between Katie and Brooke continue to simmer, the stage is set for even greater drama ahead, where pride, legacy, and rivalry will once again collide in unexpected ways. As Katie's declaration hangs in the air like a final note that refuses to fade, the emotional distance between the sisters begins to widen in a way that feels almost inevitable. Brooke stands in silence for a moment, not because she has nothing to say, but because the weight of Katie's confidence has shifted the room into something colder and more fragile. The tension is no longer just about fashion or business. It's about legacy, identity, and the deeply personal history that has always bound and divided them. Katie's words still echo in Brooke's mind, but instead of breaking her, they ignite a quiet, simmering determination. Beneath Brooke's composed exterior, there's the unmistakable sense that this is not the end of the conversation, but the beginning of something far more complicated. And as the atmosphere tightens between them, it becomes clear that neither sister is truly ready to back down. In the days that follow, Katie's confidence continues to ripple outward, influencing every move she makes within the expanding world of Logan. She walks through each decision with the certainty of someone who believes she is finally stepping into the role she was always meant to claim. Meetings feel more decisive, conversations more assertive, and every success reinforces her growing image of control. Yet even in her most powerful moments, there is an edge to her triumph, as if she is constantly trying to prove something not just to others, but to herself. The fashion world around her begins to take notice, drawn in by the boldness of Logan's resurgence and Katie's increasingly fearless presence at its center. But with every new achievement, the shadow of competition quietly lingers just beyond the spotlight. Brooke, however, does not remain passive in the face of Katie's rising influence. Instead, she begins to move with a quieter, more strategic focus, reconnecting with allies and carefully observing the shifting dynamics around Logan. Her silence is not surrender, it is calculation, the kind that comes from years of navigating power struggles in a world where perception is everything. While Katie celebrates momentum, Brooke starts to rebuild her foundation, piece by piece, without drawing unnecessary attention. There is a growing awareness within her that this conflict is no longer just about business decisions or creative ownership, but about reclaiming something that feels deeply personal. And though she does not rush, every move she makes carries the quiet weight of intention. Meanwhile, within Logan itself, the atmosphere becomes increasingly divided. Some are drawn to Katie's energy and her vision of a new era, inspired by her confidence and the promise of change. Others, however, remain hesitant, sensing that rapid transformation often comes with instability beneath the surface. Conversations in hallways and offices begin to reflect this quiet split, where admiration and doubt coexist in uneasy balance. Katie interprets this division as proof of progress, believing that disruption is simply the price of evolution. But unseen by her, it is also creating fractures that could weaken the very foundation she is working so hard to strengthen. In a world where loyalty is never guaranteed, perception begins to shift as quickly as success itself. As time moves forward, subtle cracks begin to form in Katie's unshakable confidence. Not in dramatic collapse, but in small, almost imperceptible moments where control feels just slightly out of reach. A delayed response here, a hesitant reaction there, tiny signs that not everything is aligning as perfectly as she envisions. She dismisses them at first, attributing them to growing pains and the natural turbulence of success. But beneath that dismissal, a quiet tension begins to build, one she refuses to fully acknowledge. The higher she rises in her own narrative, the more exposed she becomes to the possibility of a fall, though she is not yet willing to see it. Brooke, watching from a distance, begins to recognize these shifting patterns with a clarity born from experience. She knows too well that in their world, momentum can be deceptive, and confidence can blind even the strongest players to what is coming next. Without rushing or reacting emotionally, She positions herself in a way that allows her to remain connected to every shift, every hesitation, every fracture forming within the structure Katie believes is unbreakable. And while she does not declare victory or even suggest it, there is a quiet understanding growing within her that nothing in this rivalry is ever truly settled. It only transforms, waiting for the right moment to resurface in a new form. As the story continues to unfold, the emotional stakes between Katie and Brooke deepen far beyond professional rivalry. What began as a clash over fashion and recognition is slowly evolving into something far more personal, rooted in years of shared history, unresolved resentment, and unspoken longing for approval. Every interaction now carries echoes of past wounds and future consequences, as if each word exchanged is shaping a larger fate neither of them fully controls. And in this fragile balance between triumph and tension, the world around them waits, watching, shifting, and quietly preparing for the next inevitable turning point in a story where no victory ever feels permanent for long. As the tension between Katie and Brooke continues to evolve, the world around them begins to feel less like a stable foundation and more like a shifting stage where every step carries hidden consequences. Katie moves forward with unwavering conviction, believing that momentum is on her side and that the future of Logan is finally bending toward her vision. Each new development in her fashion venture reinforces her belief that she is not just participating in the industry, but reshaping it. Yet beneath the surface of that certainty, subtle undercurrents begin to form. Whispers of doubt from outside voices, cautious observations from industry insiders, and quiet resistance that does not yet reveal itself openly. The higher she climbs, the more she becomes surrounded by both admiration and scrutiny, as if every success is being carefully weighed for its long-term stability. In this growing atmosphere of pressure disguised as progress, Katie's confidence remains strong, but the world around her grows increasingly complex. Brooke, meanwhile, begins to operate with a calm intensity that contrasts sharply with Katie's bold declarations. She does not rush into confrontation or attempt to directly dismantle Katie's rising influence. Instead, she observes, listens, and gathers understanding of how the balance of power is shifting. There is a quiet patience in her approach, as though she knows that timing will matter more than reaction. Each interaction she has within their shared professional world becomes an opportunity to see beneath the surface of what Katie is building. And while she does not openly challenge her sister, there is an unmistakable sense that Brooke is slowly preparing for a moment when clarity or correction will become necessary. This restraint creates a tension of its own, one that simmers just beneath every exchange, even when no words are spoken. Within Logan, the division that once appeared subtle begins to deepen in ways that cannot be ignored. Conversations grow more careful, alliances become more defined, and the once unified energy of the brand begins to reflect the personal divide at its core. Katie's supporters speak with enthusiasm about innovation and change, convinced that a new era is not only coming, but already here. At the same time, those who remain loyal to Brooke's legacy carry a quieter confidence, rooted in experience and the belief that true influence cannot be replaced so quickly. The atmosphere becomes layered with dual interpretations of the same reality. One side seeing revolution, the other seeing imbalance waiting to correct itself. And in that divide, Logan itself becomes a living reflection of the sisters' rivalry, each decision echoing far beyond boardrooms and design studios. As pressure builds from both internal and external forces, Katie finds herself pushing even harder to solidify her vision before any resistance can take shape. She doubles down on her identity as the new face of Logan's success, determined to ensure that her rise is not seen as temporary or accidental. Every presentation, every decision, every public statement becomes part of a larger effort to establish permanence in an environment that rarely allows it. Yet this intensity also begins to create strain, as maintaining control over a rapidly expanding influence demands more energy than she initially anticipated. Still, She refuses to slow down, believing that hesitation would only invite doubt into a position that must remain unshakable. In her mind, momentum is not just an advantage, it is survival. Brooke, observing this acceleration, begins to recognize a familiar pattern emerging beneath Katie's confidence. It is not failure she sees yet, but the early signs of overextension, the subtle weight that comes when ambition moves faster than stability can support. She understands that in their world, the greatest vulnerabilities often appear not during weakness, but during perceived strength. And while she does not act on this awareness immediately, it shapes her patience into something more deliberate, almost strategic in its silence. There is no need for confrontation when time itself may reveal what words cannot. Instead, she allows events to unfold naturally, trusting that reality has a way of correcting imbalance when it becomes unsustainable. As the distance between the sisters grows both emotionally and strategically, the sense of inevitability surrounding their conflict becomes more pronounced. This is no longer a simple disagreement or a fleeting rivalry. It is a long, unfolding collision between two visions of identity, legacy, and belonging. Every success Katie achieves feels brighter but more fragile, while every move Brooke makes feels quieter but more enduring. And as the world of fashion continues to watch their every step, the story shifts into a deeper phase where victory is no longer defined by immediate triumph, but by endurance over time. In this evolving tension, both sisters move forward on parallel paths that seem destined to cross again, not with resolution, but with consequences that neither of them can fully predict. As the rivalry between Katie and Brooke continues to stretch across every corner of their personal and professional lives, the world around them begins to feel increasingly charged with anticipation. What once felt like a clear rise for Katie slowly transforms into something more fragile beneath its polished surface, as if every achievement now carries a hidden weight. She remains committed to her vision of Logan as a rising force in fashion, pushing forward with a confidence that refuses to waver in public. Yet behind closed doors, the constant pressure to maintain momentum begins to leave subtle traces of strain, not in dramatic breakdowns, but in quieter moments of fatigue and reflection. Each decision now feels more consequential than the last, as though the margin for error is shrinking with every step forward. Still, Katie presses on, determined not to allow doubt, whether her own or anyone else's, to interrupt what she believes is her rightful ascent. Brooke, in contrast, continues to move with a calm, measured presence that makes her increasingly difficult to read. She is no longer reacting to Katie's rise with visible emotion, but instead observing it as part of a larger unfolding pattern that she has seen before in different forms. There is a quiet understanding in her approach, as though she recognizes that power shifts rarely remain static for long. While Katie is focused on expansion and validation, Brooke is focused on sustainability and timing, carefully watching where enthusiasm begins to outpace stability. Her silence is not absence, but strategy, each moment of restraint building towards something that has yet to reveal itself. And though she does not openly challenge Katie, her awareness of the situation grows sharper with each passing development. Within the broader world surrounding Logan, the ripple effects of their rivalry begin to intensify in ways that are impossible to ignore. Conversations in professional circles take on a more cautious tone, as industry voices begin to reassess what Katie's rapid rise truly represents. Some see innovation and fearless reinvention, while others begin to quietly question whether such rapid transformation can truly sustain itself. At the same time, Brooke's long-standing influence remains a quiet benchmark in the background, a reminder of how deeply rooted her presence still is within the fashion world. The contrast between them becomes more pronounced, not as a simple competition, but as two competing interpretations of legacy itself, one built on acceleration, the other on endurance. And in that contrast, uncertainty begins to take hold beneath the surface of every success and every doubt. As pressure continues to build, Katie finds herself increasingly driven to reinforce her position through visibility and affirmation. She begins to lean even more into her identity as the new defining force of Logan fashion, ensuring that her presence is felt in every possible space. Her confidence, once a source of inspiration, begins to take on a more urgent edge, as if she is constantly working against an unseen countdown. Each accomplishment is no longer just a celebration, but a reinforcement of her legitimacy in a space that still feels contested beneath the surface. Yet this constant need to affirm her place also creates a subtle emotional tension, as the line between confidence and pressure grows thinner over time. Even so, she refuses to slow down, convinced that maintaining momentum is the only way to secure permanence. Brooke, watching this acceleration from a distance, begins to sense that the structure Katie is building may soon face its first real test, not through confrontation, but through the natural strain that comes when ambition expands faster than its foundation can comfortably support. She does not interfere, nor does she attempt to disrupt Katie's progress directly. Instead, she allows space for events to unfold, trusting that clarity often emerges more powerfully through experience than opposition. There is a quiet certainty in her restraint, as though she understands that every rise carries within it the possibility of recalibration. And while she remains composed outwardly, her awareness of what may come next only deepens with time.